body on the mortuary slab. From the girl's face, she could have been any age between 13 and 18. She was likely undernourished, as her cheeks were hollow, reminding Jack of 90s fashion models back when emaciated skinny was the vogue. Dark circles shrouded her eyes, and she wore no makeup. Her dull brown, shoulder-length hair was swept up, revealing unpierced ears. But it was clearly a heavily scarred body that caused Shauna concern. They weren't the scars of a self-harming teenager, but medical scars. Shauna pointed to a round mark on her abdomen. That's from an old feeding peg. She indicated to another, on the other side of her body. Until recently, she had a stoma. To Jack, the child looked like a rag doll stitched together by a seamstress. It was as if Shauna had started the post-mortem and had already sewn her back up. The two longest scars ran from below the girl's belly button to her pubic hair, and between her breasts to her stomach. But there were many others, and Shauna gave her medical opinion on them all. Appendix removal? She gestured at a small scar on the right of the girl's body. Possible gallbladder removal? And so it continued. Jack tried to ease the growing, palpable tension in the room. She's been in the wars, then? Shooting a disapproving look at her friend, Shauna stood up. A gold bar raised with her eyebrow. Shauna Scott was usually the one making the jokes. The more macabre and the darker, the better. But today there was no trace of humour in her eyes. She looked genuinely concerned. Perhaps cancer? Jack wanted to be sure that everything was ruled out, so she didn't jump to the wrong conclusions. Shauna shook her head. She suddenly collapsed in the middle of the bullring. The ambulance crew tried to resuscitate her, but pronounced her dead within minutes of reaching the hospital. She was shopping on her own, no mates around. There's something just not right about this one. I mean, even if she has been seriously ill, the range and scope of medical interventions just don't fit. And I haven't even opened her up yet. How do you know all this? You wouldn't expect any detail about where she was found to be included in her medical records. Shauna stood, stretching her back. I spoke to one of the nurses in A&E. This just didn't smell right, so I rang you. Jack wasn't surprised that she'd been called in. This young girl's sudden death had suspicious written all over it. And after so many years working together, she trusted Shauna's gut instinct. Reaching into her bag, she popped a mint from an open packet, placed it into her mouth and began to suck. She knew what was coming next. Shauna smiled. You can wait outside until I've opened her up if you like. Jack didn't move or even flinch until she heard the screeching of the bone saw as it cut through the breastbone. Soon the young girl's insides were displayed. After investigating for several minutes, Shauna frowned. Not quite what I was expecting. Jack didn't look too closely. None of what she'd seen so far was expected. How do you mean? Everything looks normal at first glance. She switched on her mic. For the benefit of the tape, I can see that all organs are intact and appear to be healthy. There is some minor scarring, particularly of the lower bowel. She lifted it and examined it more closely. I can see that at some point part of the bowel has been removed and diverted to a stoma. There's no evidence as to the reason why this would be needed. Shauna turned her concentration to the intestines. She squeezed along each section. There appears to be no signs of blockages or damage in either intestine. Shauna removed the stomach, holding it upright to avoid any spillage. She tipped its contents into a large dish. It was too much for Jack. She looked away, sucking harder on the mint as her stomach churned. Looks like she had a vanilla milkshake shortly before her death. The sweet tang of vanilla did nothing to hide the stench of recent digestion. Jack swallowed hard to stop herself from heaving. Not for the first time, she pondered how her friend managed to cut dead people up and remain relatively normal. Strike that, her friend hated being described as normal. Shauna would always be queer and alternative in both her dress and lifestyle. Under her white apron, she wore a Sisters of Mercy t-shirt with the sleeves roughly scissored to show off her full-sleeve tattoos.